Not yet. He said he'd try to make it early. I'm
How's it going, man?
not sure what happened.
Good to see you.
Glad to
Hey,
see
you
you.
too. It's been a long time, huh?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that
Months gone by.
that Applebee's was really good. We had.
Yeah.
Oh, you went to Applebee's after?
Oh, we went. Well, we went like a week ago, I think.
Oh,
Was it
okay.
a week ago?
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
But you didn't finish your food, man. You
Oh, I took it home.
all of it home.
I took some. Yeah.
Nothing wrong with
I
that.
ate at home. I like saving stuff.
Yeah, okay. Well, I felt really bad. I'd finished my meal, and it looked like you hadn't finished yours by the time we...
Oh, for some reason I just wasn't.
Good,
Well, I think I ate
Welcome.
a
Go
little before.
around that way, please.
Boy, this chair is wobbly.
Go and swap one out if you're not comfortable with that one. There's others.
Your chair has a political tilt to it? Oh, not that kind of wobble.
You're not
Greetings from the South Farthing. The long bottom weeds are growing like weeds.
focus on the conversation better. So
Well,
I
there's
have to
people
because we're
here.
doing all
There's
this.
people. Oh, there's people.
Yeah. It looks like
Chris
there we go.
Cooperstein is people.
I don't know. It might be a figment of his own
Soylent Green
imagination.
is people.
The royal weed. And I.
Weed does it once. It's my precious.
Hello and welcome to the Aya Tolkien Society monthly meeting, our monthly moot. It is June 19th, 2021. We typically meet on the third Saturday of each month from 1 to 3 p.m. Pacific time. The studio is here in Spokane, Washington, but we have people join from all over the world, as far away as Italy and South America.
Minnesota.
Well,
That's where I
Minnesota
live now is Minnesota.
Okay, but before were you?
I grew up in South America.
Right. Yeah. So you, if you're ever interested, don't worry about where you are geographically. If you don't mind the time difference, we love having you join the conversations. Always feel free. We are streaming live on YouTube, unless you're watching the recorded version. And so feel free to post comments in there as well. I'll do my best to monitor that. We welcome everybody to the conversation.
Let's not forget that today is the new federal holiday called Juneteenth
Sure.
that has nothing to do with this at all.
It's also my youngest brother's birthday too.
Oh, very good.
Same day,
Happy birthday
so.
to him.
I just got off the phone with him before the meeting. Had a
Happy
nice
Juneteenth.
talk.
Huh?
Happy Juneteenth.
Yes.
Juneteenth.
Happy
He's
Juneteenth.
the one I may have mentioned to you who studies like Spanish literature and,
Oh,
and
okay.
philology,
Yes.
and spent a lot of years in Guatemala, and his wife, the mother of his children, is from Mexico. He had spent a lot of time in Spain and elsewhere working on his degrees. So,
That would be a blast.
you and he would have a great conversation.
We really haven't talked too much about Hobbit holidays, have we? We tried to start at one point, but we got kind of sidetracked.
We've tried to cover holidays a few times. So if you have ideas, we welcome it.
Well, I don't remember all the
That's fine.
Hobbit.
We can always break
But
out the
first, the
Midsummer.
notes.
Yes, so first let's go. So website is tolkienscholars.org. You can check out all the meeting notes from previous meetings going all the way back to 2005, 6, 7, right around there. And our videos are on youtube.com/Tolkien Scholars. So feel free. And then if you want to join in the RPGSN chat room, it's rpgsn.net. That stands for the Role Playing Game Social Network.net. It's RPG Researches, but we, as founder of that organization as well, we piggyback on that. So those are all ways you can join and connect. Hey, John.
Hey.
Yeah, we Tolkien Society today, so we're leaving this set up because that's at 4 o'clock, but needed to clear some of the space. Your laptop's right there. So are you going to join the conversation for Tolkien Society?
Did we have both rooms running?
Only one room is running.
Did David show up?
No, David can't come today. He didn't get a hold of you about that?
I don't
He-
remember
okay.
this being discussed.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it wasn't.
So unfortunately, that means if there were people expecting it, they're left hanging, which is not good.
Well, no, nobody showed up when you went in there, so I think he probably canceled it.
I don't know.
But I don't know because
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't. know.
We're doing this meeting now, so we're
Yep.
on the air.
Good to see you, John.
Hello, everybody. I was going to talk about holidays.
Yeah, that's what he wanted to talk about too.
Wonderful.
But you know about the RPG research holidays.
I feel like
No.
butter scraped
Oh.
over too much
Okay, good.
bread.
Yeah, that's what he wanted to talk about too.
Yes.
So we'll get to that. But first, let's do our meeting minutes. Introduce ourselves and then do the meeting minutes. So I'm Hawk Robinson, president and founder of the Aya Tolkien Society.
I'm Corey. I've been here for a while. I'm starting to get closer. 5 years, 6 years? I don't even remember. I'm going to have to
X number
figure
of
it out
years.
one day.
Less than a decade.
Sam, I'm Brian's brother-in-law. I showed up around a year ago virtually.
2 years.
2 years
2
ago.
2
years.
years. Yeah, you were upstairs when we did
Fall
that
of
one.
Gondolin.
Yes.
Yes.
And since I was out here for my niece's wedding, Brian invited me to show up this afternoon.
Very good. I'm Brian Huseland, secretary of the Aya Tolkien Society of Earth.
Planet Earth.
Yes, that one.
It's a great documentary. Hi, I'm Anthony Cassett. I'm of the East Fobbing, and I've been coming to these meetings, I think, for the past 4 years to the month. I think I started coming to these like June of 2017, so
Nice.
Yep.
Okay.
4-year anniversary.
Very good.
And I recently
So
became
are you trying to join
an
the
official
Gypsy
member
meeting?
of the International Tolkien Society, based in the UK. So,
He's
Yes.
got a card and
Ooh,
everything.
yeah.
Yes.
Thank you for the reminder. I need to renew at the end of this
Okay,
month.
so on there should be. Let me
And
check
I'm
the
Chris
page.
Cooperstein. I've been coming for a while, member of the South Farthing officially.
Many a
where
year.
The long bottom weed is grown. There are a couple
Okay, have
weed
you tried
factories
going
a
to
couple doors down from my house.
MEET dot
No
rpgresearch.com
doubt Saruman's doing, right?
/
Saruman.
Saruman. So I
okay,
will go ahead and read the notes
rpgresearch.com.
as a few people are still joining us.
Did we accidentally delete that?
So the A.I. Tolkien Society meeting
Let's see
for
here.
May 2021.
Yeah.
We had Corey, Anthony, Hawk, Brian.
Oh, yeah. And
in
I have
person,
to invite you
and,
for that one. So
Sarah
there's an easier way
Zama
to
online.
join.
I read the April notes.
Yeah. So go to
And we had some recommendations. For example, the Prancing Pony podcast, Moot.
Tolkien,
They have their own Moot. I don't know if anybody has
and then the
tried listening to the
password
Prancing
is
Pony podcast.
when prompted. There's no
But
username
Sean
and the password is
Marchese
Tolkien.
from last year's panel discussion at Tolkien Moot, he's half of the Prancing Pony podcast pair of Sean Marchese and Alan Sisto,
Unless I got it
and they
wrong.
received, I think it was a year ago, Best Online Tolkien Content Award from the Tolkien Society.
Oh.
Anyway, so
Okay, so
they have a moot that they did in March.
MEET.rpgresearch.com.
Also, a brand new podcast by Dom Monahan and Billy Boyd, otherwise known as Merry and Pippin
And I'm
from the Lord of the Rings movies. And these two actors have started a new podcast called The Friendship Onion,
No,
in which they discuss acting
MEET.rpg
and
research.
their adventures, and they try to bring in friends
Yes,
like
meet
Elijah
dot
Wood to talk about
RPG
fun memories of shooting
research.
the Lord of the Rings and other things as well. They try out
.com.
new foods that nobody, that people recommend to them. Like they'd never had a Twinkie before, so they tried a Twinkie. Yes,
Wow.
they said it would go down well with tea.
Oh, I bet, yeah. Tolkien is rolling over in his grave, though. Can you imagine how manufactured that is? Like,
The Twinkie?
Yeah. Think about
Yeah,
that,
I've seen
man.
video- I've
What
seen
we're
videos.
doing to our world just to fill ourselves with Twinkies.
Yeah,
There you
Gypsy
go.
Meat. Yeah, that's where you're
Let's
getting
have something
closer.
to eat after the apocalypse.
Yeah.
So you went to
Right.
MEET.rpgresearch.com
And then,
and then
It's the
forward
only thing that would
slash
survive, right?
Right.
Tolkien.
And cockroaches.
And then
Actually, it might be.
and
is
then
it Tolkien one or Tolkien?
Sarah Zama from
Oh, yeah,
Italy.
that's
She
the
gave an update on her Silmarillion presentation to a group there in Italy, and she's also been posting about World War One
Yeah, it
and
might be
the
Tolkien one. I'm checking here. Just
way
a
in which
second.
soldiers during the war, which of course Tolkien was intimately aware of, how
I need
often
to
they
fix
came
the
back
link
from
on
the
that page, I'm
front,
sorry.
disfigured, and kind of the
Just try
surgery
that
that they had
again.
to do to help guys who had been injured. And John Garth retweeted one of her tweets, so it was kind of fun to just have that discussion there. We discussed Numenor as we're getting close to Tolkien Moot. I think we're at 16 now. Hawk's
Yeah,
busy,
there
so we
might
can't
be-
corroborate that. But we're coming up to Tolkien Moot next month, July.
Might be
We'll
a
discuss
one
that
at
in a
the
little
end. I'm
bit.
checking that right
But because of that, we talked a little bit about Numenor and that story arc, so we'll, I'm sure, return to that in the meeting.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
We talked about the geography.
rpgresearch.com.
The geography of Arda a little bit. We talked about
Tell you what, hang on just a minute. I'm going to update that webpage for you.
Alberta
the one you're on,
Bag
so that you
in
can just-
Burrows. I am really drawing a blank
You'll
here,
just
guys.
refresh
Can
that
you help me
page. So
remember
let me put the phone down for a
Alberta
minute and I'll
Bag
tell you
in
when you can
Burrows?
refresh that page, okay?
what was this about?
Alberta, it was a
Just
Canadian.
hang on a minute.
There was a Canadian deal where they avoided all the
Oh, that's
copyright stuff,
right.
but they had
Yeah.
like a bed and breakfast
Yeah.
kind of
Yes, yes. And it was called Bag in Burrows.
thing. Right, because they couldn't call it.
Baggins.
Yeah.
Or Bagan.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, those Canadians are
Sack
clever.
front. I don't know.
Yeah, we Canadians are clever.
Yeah, that's right.
Barbarians.
Next. Okay. Put down your swords, gentlemen.
Loser
Next.
wrestlers.
Next month, holidays. We'll talk about holidays of races in Middle Earth. That's what we want to talk about is what were the different holidays or specific
Okay,
special
so if
days.
if you're on that reminder
that
page,
have
there's
been
the ANTOL
mentioned by
Society meeting
Tolkien,
reminder for June
unique to
19th.
each
Just refresh
race.
that page.
Right.
And
And
then
then
letter
you'll see,
183 resumed. We usually
oh,
read
I didn't make it
at
so
least
quick.
one letter of J.r.r. Tolkien each month, as has been our want since at least 2008 or 9. But this was a very long letter, so we broke it up into 2 months. So we finished letter 183, which led to a discussion of Tolkien's points on good and evil. And so then that led to another very
Okay, refresh it
heated
now.
discussion
Now,
on what would happen
as
if
you
the
scroll
Fellowship of the
down
Ring
where
had
Tolkien
failed.
Society logo is, you should see
And
or
Sauron had
join
gotten
with
the ring
basic
back.
Jitsi webpage
So then
and
there
the
was a
link.
kind of a debate about
Just click that one,
whether or
and
not
then the
there could have
password's
been
Tolkien mode.
one more chance to defeat him or not. And Hawk referenced Midnight, their a role-playing game called Fury of Shadow, which is similar to the idea that if Sauron had won, small pockets of resistance, etc., etc. Can't win the whole fight, but maybe small fights and all that. Then we talked about hopefulness versus resilience and how you need to be able to have hope. Otherwise, if you can't ultimately defeat evil in the world, then really
All
it's
one
just
word, all
you're locked
lowercase,
into a
no
cycle
spaces.
forever. So that
Right.
doesn't seem to be very hopeful, as Corey aptly pointed out. And then we talked about how to handle adversity. Tolkien addressed that. And then that led to
There you
discussion
are.
on role-playing adventures,
We see you. Oh,
how
I'm gonna hang
to,
up the phone now.
are we good?
Yeah, he wanted to get in on the meeting,
Who is
so
he?
he needed some help. The fellow just joined us.
Okay.
If you want to introduce yourself, please.
Sure. My name is Gary Hagelin. I live over here in Anacortes. And I found you guys on the net. I was searching around where other Tolkien fans live and, you know, all that stuff. So, anyway, I did find you. In fact, I found you last month. And I was happy to do that, but I couldn't figure out how to get in. So this time I was called.
Yep.
Hawk
Good job.
Robertson.
That's me.
Welcome,
That's
Gary.
me.
Welcome.
We're so glad to have you here.
And I've been a fan for a long time. I was introduced to Tolkien with The Hobbit, 1965.
Oh,
By a
wow.
very eclectic couple at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. And I mean, these people are, I think, morticians in training or something. They drove a yellow bug, but they helped out the county coroner, the Dayton County coroner. And anyway, they said you got to read it, so I read it there. And then after I joined the Air Force, I read Lord of the Rings, and you know, I was really hooked. So
Nice.
happy to be here.
Happy to have you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks
Thank you
a
for
lot.
going through all the hurdles. I've tried to make it as easy as possible. I'm sorry that link got dropped. That should be there in the future.
My wife is the IT expert in the family.
Okay.
No problem,
Well,
Gary.
appreciate your perseverance. So we're just going through
Absolutely.
the meeting minutes, wrapping up the meeting minutes here from the last meeting.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So one of the things we're going to try to tackle today as a topic would be Tolkien's cultures. What holidays did different cultures or races in Middle Earth have? And so we'll get a chance to talk about that hopefully today. We as I said, we finished letter 183 of the letters of J.r.r. Tolkien, which we try to go through at least one letter each meeting. Yeah, I guess just going back to the end here, we were discussing how to handle adversity. In other words, what often is called by the elves the long defeat or the long struggle. In a way, we were talking about how that's related to generations and how different generations just handle adversity a little differently, and how to help younger generations to handle adversity better. So one way to do that is through role-playing adventures. Hawk mentioned building empathy and really dealing with the problem of moral relativism, and so he referenced Reverse Dungeon, Al-Qadim Reunion, and Al-Qadim Assassin Mountain. These are all old modules, I believe, from the 19...
Those are from those particular ones were second edition AD&D early 90s.
Early 90s. Yeah. So just kind of talking about empathy, maybe situations where it's not black and white, but you have to figure out what is the right thing to do. And then Hawk read more jokes at the end from the book.
Oh, yes. Yes. A dragon walks into a bar.
Yes. And so we're here, the Tolkien Society, the AI Tolkien Society is, we're about all things Tolkien, but we do from time to time discuss related concepts, which might be games, whether that be board games, role-playing games, movies, etc. Video games, yes. But we of course we love the books, and that's where everything is inspired from that. And then at the end of the meeting, we talked about meeting on June 19th, which is today. So those are the notes, and that's all I had to say.
All right, thank you very much, Brian. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, and we're happy to discuss other topics as well. We just want to make sure we get a start into that one, and then if you have other topics you want to discuss today, please let us know. Okay, Brian, where are we going to go from there? I'm trying to find where my Tolkien books got moved to because
Yeah.
they didn't make it
Well,
back to the shelf.
Maybe I could just
They
ask
all be on that
Gary a
shelf.
question
They're not.
before we get started here.
My letters.
Thank you, Gary, for giving us a little bit of background on you. But I had a quick question. So, speaking about Wisconsin, have you ever been to the University of Wisconsin at Marquette? Because they have actually some of the Tolkien manuscripts.
No, but I have read about them. It's,
I think that's in Wisconsin.
I normally don't get back there too often, but and usually I stick around to see family in the Madison area. So I have not been there, but I've heard that.
Right. Well, it's good to have you. Maybe we can just go around one more time and introduce our names, just so that Gary feels a little bit less like a stranger. I'm Brian. I'm the secretary of Tolkien Society. And
It's almost like a 12-step program.
Yeah.
yes, I am happily able to say I will never recover from being a reader of Tolkien.
A Tolkien all.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Anthony. I'm from Spokane, Washington, and I've been coming to these meetings for the past 4 years to the month, and I just recently joined the International Tolkien Society based in the UK. So.
And actually, you were in the role-playing adventure 2 years ago at Tolkien Moot 14, which was first stage, The Fall of Gondolin.
Yes.
And could you describe in maybe just a few sentences, what was that experience like, kind of as it were, living from the inside of that history?
It's obviously the Fall of Gondor was pretty traumatic for everyone involved, but it kind of led to this kind of cataclysmic moment where kind of the old world kind of sunk into the sea, literally and sort of figuratively, and kind of a new one sprung up, and that's kind of leads into what we'll be doing next, right? Which is the
Right, and there's a little bit of time difference there, but you're right that there are. It was the kind of culminates in a lot of things happening, but your group was able to, as it were, you were role playing characters who helped bring Idril Celebrimbor
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
and Tuor and their son Eärendil to safety. So yeah, fun stuff. Okay, just again, go ahead and say your names for Gary.
I'm John Wilker, Vice President of RPG Research, and I have been occasionally showing up at Tolkien Moot meetings for like 6 years.
And has helped with organizing and running the Tolkien Moot convention,
big time.
annual convention,
Well, I'm Corey. I've been here, like I said, it's been at least, I don't know, I haven't quite made it a decade, but
8 years maybe.
yeah, it's I don't remember exactly when I started. But anyways, I've loved Tolkien from the beginning. My mother actually was the one who gave me The Hobbit when I was in middle school. And I didn't have a clue that Tolkien was related to C.S. Lewis in any way.
Yep, that's friends.
It was always kind of an interesting connection once I started reading the Narnia series, which was actually put on by not NBC, PBS.
Oh yeah.
And I did not know the connection, so I always thought it was interesting when I finally figured out that all of them were kind of in the same group of Inklings.
Yeah, they were like best friends.
Yeah. But it was a revelation for me,
Yeah.
at least.
Yeah.
And yeah, so somewhere between a lustrum and a decade you've been here.
Yeah.
Sam.
And that's Corey?
What's that?
The gentleman who we just talked about.
That's Corey,
Corey.
yes.
Corey.
Okay, Corey.
Yep.
Got it. I gotta write this down, I'm terrible with names.
Well, and the videos are streamed live on youtube.com/Tolkien Scholars. So you can always go back to the videos later too if you want. All of our meetings are broadcast over the years.
Okay.
So, and then joining us remotely from central southern Washington.
Hi, I'm Chris Cooperstein. I've been part of this gang for more than a decade. And about 3 years ago, moved my family down to the Tri-Cities for work-related reasons, but sometimes show up in person and sometimes show up remotely.
That's a good drive. Tri-Cities is Spokane?
It's about
Yeah,
3 hours.
It's only 2 hours,
2 hours?
2.5
That's
hours.
not bad.
Yeah.
And
All right.
this gentleman there in the gray shirt, I didn't get his name.
Me?
Yeah, yes, sir.
I'm Sam. I am a first-time in-person visitor. I've been here virtually once before, but
He was a guest speaker 2 years ago, and
Right.
he's related to Brian. So.
I'm related to this guy and was out for a wedding, and Brian invited me to come along this afternoon.
Okay, great. Well, it's good to meet all of you, and thanks for being so, welcoming me to the group.
Gladly, happy to have you. And we often have someone from Italy join as well, but it's very late for her, so she doesn't always
Yeah,
make it.
Something came up.
And then sometimes fellow from UK.
She
and,
sends her regrets.
yeah, totally understand.
You really
How
should.
about if we discuss the holidays topic
Please,
first,
let's
and
do
we'll get
that.
to the letter a little bit later on.
That'd be
But
great.
John, did you want to introduce that at all, or did you just want to contribute as once it gets started?
Well, I'll gladly.
So the
introduce
topic
it.
is, just to make it clear again, it's holidays of different peoples in Middle Earth.
Right, or any holidays that we could find and talk about.
Right.
Tolkien at first just used, at least in the books, the regular calendar, the Gregorian calendar. But
The names of the months and all that, yeah.
right, there is a Shire calendar that indicates that it is 12 months long, 30 days, plus 5 or 6 named days added around the 365, 366 for leap years.
Great.
There were 2 Yule days, and there were Lith days between June and July. And in common years, then there were leap years. We had Mid-Year's Day, and we had Overlife. But a list of the holidays that I came across.
Are these Shire ones?
These are just the ones I could found. I mean, they're not a long list.
Because I was just thinking it makes sense, the Shire calendar, they liked the party, didn't they? So
Right.
they would have quite a few special days.
The Shire calendar just corresponds with like after Yule, Aston. Well, actually goes after Yule, Solmath, Wreath, Astron, Thingage, Forlith, and then after Forlith is Mid-Year's Day or Overlith. I'm not seeing any specific holidays that say these were more
Right.
Shire than not.
Right.
But the first holiday I came across was Soval. It's a mysterious holiday. Its name included in the Quenya lexicon. Name means the purification.
How does it spell?
Sovalle. It means purification, and it has to do with washing, bathing, and cleansing. Took
Bubble
place
bath.
sometime in February.
Yeah.
Given the similarity in names, Solvaris or Varus, I don't know if the W is pronounced with a V or a W, which is Sovalwaris.
So is there any connection, like what was the significance of this? Because I'm thinking about how the elves, Quenya is the oldest Elvish language recorded, and in Tolkien's Legendarium, the elves awoke near Lake Cuiviénen. So water and stars have always played kind of a part. What does it have to do with, I wonder? Purification for what? We know?
My guess is spring cleaning, but it's just a guess. Given the name is a Quenya one, the holiday would most likely have been celebrated by the Noldor and or Venya.
Okay. Nice.
But that's it labels it as a mysterious holiday.
Got it.
So we know the name exists. We know approximately our February, but
You're telling me Tolkien didn't get everything out of it? I mean, come on. I mean,
he left a few
13
things from history.
He likes to keep us in the dark. I think.
Oh, totally.
So do remember, for those who are remote, if everybody talks over each other, it's really hard to understand. So try to be really careful to speak one at a time.
Now,
And the walking.
Very
you
challenging.
are in the right place.
Talking stick,
AskMiddleEarth.tumblr.com. Holidays in Middle Earth. This is my reference point for most of it. There is a Shire calendar that's also in the Tolkien Gateway.
Yeah,
.net.
there's Numenorian on.
Shire calendar is also in the appendices of the Return of the King.
Right.
Cool.
Let us not forget.
Well, I have a whole list of holidays, but you guys can do it whatever you want to do.
what,
Let
Chris?
us not forget the greatest of holidays in the Shire calendar, which happened the 22nd of September of 3001 of the Third Age.
The 111th birthday.
The 111th birthday, where 144 hobbits were invited, and it was to match Frodo's combined total of years with Bilbo's combined total of years.
Yes, a gross of hobbits.
Yes, it is the grossest of holidays.
It's also my dad's birthday, so don't
I mean, only hobbits would make
Gross
birthdays
jokes.
into almost holidays, really, because what was the quote? Something about at birthdays they always gave away presents.
I did hobbit birthdays for years as a kid and teenager and young adult. I at the door was giving out little gifts. To
Aw.
Nice.
That was because I was inspired by that. I thought that was
Yeah.
a great.
Mary,
thing.
like
happy
a-
on birthday to you.
Yes. Well, sort of also like the Native American custom, perhaps, of a potlatch, where your generosity, it's the giving away and not necessarily receiving. But that's just interesting. So hobbits are okay. So what else do you got there, John?
Well, there's spring festivals. The Elvish calendar begin in spring around early April. So it's like the Chinese New Year. It doesn't start in January. So the Elvish New Year celebrates time. There aren't any details about the New Year celebrated, but we know there are 2 days set aside on the calendar for the event. Mettar, Mettare, last day of the year, and Yestar, the first day of the year. In Numenor, the spring festival was called Yurkirmir, Erukyerme, or Prayer to Eru. One of 3 days the king would make a prayer and a bloodless offering to Iluvatar on the top of Mount Menelatarma.
What do we mean by bloodless? Obviously, that means no animals, I would assume.
Be
So
like
what- like
No living sacrifices.
Like-
well, instead
like
of an
fruit
animal,
off a tree or something?
Probably fruits, grains.
like a wave offering, like an Old Testament wave offering.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I would guess. Not an atonement one.
No, not
yeah.
an atonement.
But just a
thank offering.
thank offering,
A
yeah.
fellowship
Thanksgiving.
offering, a peace offering.
What about there was a specific, maybe you got it on there, John, but there was a specific Elvish holiday that was being celebrated in Gondolin in the spring when, and they would wait for the rising of the sun, and it was like the middle of the night or early morning, kind of, you can imagine 2 or 3 in the morning. And it said that they looked for the sun to rise, but instead of it rising in the east, they saw light to the north, and wondered, thinking that, oh, why is the sun rising like this, or what is that? And it wasn't until a little later they realized it was the fire of dragons, and it was Morgoth's attack upon the Hidden Kingdom. So I'm wondering if anybody has that.
Last na Lothian,
Is it kind of a festival of flowers?
described as the birth of flowers, the festival is known
Yes.
to be celebrated by the elves of Gondolin, and most likely occurred in the beginning of May.
Yes, I think that's it.
There was also one mentioned in the Silmarillion when Arundel arrives in
Oh yeah.
Valinor.
Everybody
It
was
says
gone.
he arrives
Right.
in the cities on the coastal, but everybody was gone to a celebration in Tirion on Tuna, I think, and it wasn't.
Yep.
Everything was empty until he got to that. I don't know how to call it, the Valar's capital, and there was some sort of festivity going on, but I don't know if that's ever.
Irlet Tale, Praise of Uro, how Londe Loende was celebrated in Gondor is unknown, but in Numenor the day was also called Irlet Tale, and was one of the 3 days that the king would make a prayer and bloodless offering.
And that would be kind of basically descended straight from Numenor, then, right?
Yeah, this is close to midsummer.
Yeah, the Meneltorma was the big mountain in the middle of Numenor. And so
This
it
is
was based
Gondor
on-
now, so it's
right, but that was
based on
based on when they would do that. Yeah.
In the Shire, midsummer was celebrated in a 3 or 4 day festival called Lithe. Lithe.
I think it's live, but I'm not sure.
Lithe. Yeah.
Well, wasn't there a confusion, not a confusion, but a difference. They were both, the hobbits and the Gondorians had a holiday, or not necessarily a holiday. Maybe it was when they thanked them for the food, thanked the Valar for the food or something. I'm not sure if I'm saying this right. They give a nod to the west or something
In
like
Hinneth,
that.
in Hinneth Unknown,
With Faramir.
with Faramir, there's a wonderful little passage that actually I think if it's not too long, Hawk, we should be able to read that, right? If it's just a short passage.
Sure.
Is it a harvest festival?
Window on the west.
Huh?
Would it be a harvest festival?
I don't remember.
No, that's just a Thanksgiving. It's not technically a holiday.
Yeah, it's not a holiday.
It would
It's-
be a recognition of each day's bounty and.
It's like a thanks for the food prayer kind of.
Yeah.
Well, apparently Durin's Day is a holiday.
Okay, yep. Go ahead and read about that, John.
Durin's Day, the Dwarvish New Year, falls during the harvest season, but depending on each year's lunar cycle, would fall before or after solar harvest festivals. As explained by Thorin, Durin's Day occurred on the first day of the last moon of autumn. Further than idea when it occurred in 2013. Dwarves love being mysterious, so it should come as no surprise that we really don't know how this day was celebrated at all.
Well, dwarves were pretty secretive, weren't they?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Especially about their own language and
And treasure.
well, and treasure.
Well, and you couldn't tell which one was a male and which one was a female, so that made it tough.
I think the female
Speculation,
dwarves.
idle speculation.
I think the female dwarves just wore beards to keep other people from bothering them.
You're right.
It's like those crocheted hoods, right? With the
Yeah.
beards.
Reminds me of a Sliders episode where they slid in and all of a sudden these all the women are wearing mustaches. It's like a
Is that okay, so? I have a quick question about this. As a quick aside, what is the source for that? Does it specifically say that dwarvish women had beards as well?
That is mentioned.
yes, I believe it is.
It's not in the Lord of the Rings,
Like in the Book of Lost Tales or
but
something?
it's in like Lost Tales.
I
Really?
thought it was just an
or-
aside, as in this was a bar, joking to the
I think
dwarves.
only the movie did that.
Only
I
the
don't
movie
think
The
the
Okay.
books
movie
did.
did that, but there is that part in
They
the book that
pulled
in
it from some other reference.
one of Tolkien's writings that says that the women have.
Could that be
beards.
because of how Aule made them, right? I mean, because it was in a sense just kind of like
I don't know. It
one
says he
group?
made the 7 fathers of the dwarves. At some point, he must have made the 7 mothers, or
Either that or
something.
they
just-
asexually
they bud.
reproduce somehow. I'm a giant rock. I
Cabbage
don't know.
Patch
They were
dwarves.
born out of geodes.
Here's the Faramir pass.
Okay, Sam, could you read the Faramir passage? From this is the window on the west.
This is from the chapter The Window on the West, from the Two Towers, when Frodo and Sam are with Faramir and his men in Ithilien. They were then led to seats beside Faramir, barrels covered with pelts and high enough above the benches of the men for their convenience. Before they ate, Faramir and all his men turned and faced west in a moment of silence.
Yeah.
Faramir signed to Frodo and Sam that they should do likewise. So we always do, he said as they sat down. We look towards Numenor that was, and beyond to Elvenhome that is, and to that which is beyond Elvenhome and will ever be. Have you no such custom at meat? No, said Frodo, feeling strangely rustic and untutored. But if we are guests, we bow to our host, and after we have eaten, we rise and thank him. That we do also, said Faramir.
Thank you, Sam.
Yeah, I didn't remember the exact passage. I'm glad you guys remember.
John, anything else you want to share?
Let's see.
Was that mostly it?
We
Sounds
have
like you
Battle of
covered quite a bit.
Bywater, Midwinter, and
Okay, so famous battles might be remembered. Is that kind of the...
right. I'm sure that the Battle of the Five Armies has its own day that people, well, at least the Shire folks and the dwarves would recognize.
It's interesting because in the One Ring role-playing system, this is, of course, what would you call? It's augmented, right? So this is not in the
It's
canon.
fan fiction.
Yes, but it is sympathetically done. So they have, it is conceivable that they would have something similar to that. Like in Lake Town, they have like the Day of the Black Arrow or the Festival of the Black Arrow, which is the idea that, you know, because of the Black Arrow, the bard.
Celebrate the small.
Yep, to celebrate the death of Smaug, or the end of a battle of great significance that they won. So
Yeah, the Battle of the Five Armies. I mean, come on, that was big. They pretty much said that they took out, because he took out Smaug and you took out some of the goblins. They actually, the Gondorians and everything didn't have to worry about something coming out of the north because it got eliminated by the Five Armies in that.
for many years.
There is Comari, C-O-M-A-R-E, called Ring Day. This is another holiday established in Gondor during Aragorn's rule. It fell in late September on Frodo's birthday. It was made a festival to celebrate the start of the War of the Ring. Essentially, interesting enough, there's no record of this day being celebrated in the Shire.
The hobbits are completely oblivious to what had happened.
Appendix A, Lord of the
Unless they
Rings.
mistake.
This is about the female dwarves, so they have beards. They are in voice and appearance and in garb if they must go on a journey, so like to the dwarf men that the eyes and ears of other peoples cannot tell them apart.
And that's from the appendix?
That's from the Appendix A. Then Tolkien in War of the Jewels wrote, "No man nor elf has ever seen a beardless dwarf unless he were shaven in mockery, and would then be more like to die of shame, for the Nalgrim have beards in the beginning of their lives, male and female alike."
There you go.
Born with a beard.
And Christopher Tolkien in Peoples of Middle-earth presented both those statements as well, in agreement with the evidence that dwarf women had beards seems inescapable. So,
Wow.
The worst
There
disease
we go.
among dwarves would be alopecia.
yeah.
Well, I think the dwarves' beards were actually supposed to be some idea of what moss
Yes.
might be like on a stone.
Yes.
That would be
Yeah, I
the
think
closest
that
thing.
there is something kind of indirectly, I think, referring to that. That
So
would
an
make a lot of sense.
external growth, not an actual beard.
No, a real beard, but maybe because they're underground, that it is especially befitting. Much like most elves do not have beards,
Except Círdan. the
except
shipwright.
Círdan, the shipwright.
Didn't Elrond have a beard? But he's a half elf, right?
Yeah,
Right, but I
he
don't
doesn't
recall
The
really.
only one described with a beard is Círdan.
Right.
So I would say again, they are often associated with air or with kind of a higher calling. So, okay.
Not as earthy.
Thank you, John.
I've got a question.
Please.
and probably for John, this may be an artifact of Peter Jackson when he put in. And I do remember the opening, I think in his thing in The Hobbit, he took a lot of license from the books. I know the Tolkien family wasn't too happy about it. But he mentioned when young Bilbo was there and his mother, and the first time he met Gandalf, he was beating him with his toy sword. And it was Midsummer Night's Eve, and that's I know a bigger deal in Europe than it is here. And I don't know if John mentioned that or not, but
Midsummer, yes.
Midsummer, okay.
Yeah, holiday, that's different variations. But what's your question?
Yeah, I didn't hear it. I didn't hear Midsummer. Midsummer Night's Eve. And the other one was Tariel, so I don't even know if she ever, I've never seen her referenced in any Tolkien readings.
Tariel in The Hobbit?
No, Tariel the elf.
Tariel,
In
the
The
female.
Hobbit.
Yeah.
I meant
Yeah,
the
in
elf
The Hobbit,
in the
yeah.
movie The Hobbit.
And,
Yeah.
you know, I think he did that to add some sort of love interest in there and stuff like that. But she mentioned a elfish, at least the woodland elves, holiday that was supposed to be in honor of the purity and the brightness of the stars when she was talking to, gosh, what's his name? I'm having a.
That does ring a bell.
Yeah,
Something about
if
the
you remember
stars.
the movie, and like I said, it may not exist anywhere in the Tolkien
Well,
world.
the elves did reverence the stars. That is true.
The elves of Gondolin called Midsummer Tarnin Osta, Tarnin, next word Austa, passage into summer, and celebrated with a solemn ceremony at midnight, and no voice was uttered in the city from midnight until the break of day. With the dawn they hailed with ancient song. And the calendars of Numenor, and by extension Gondor and Arnor, Midsummer was called Lunde. And that we also already talked about how it was called Urlithale, Praise of Iru.
Well, which the light? There's a light. What is it that the light that was given to Sam and Frodo that they used against the
The filter in
all-seeing?
Galadriel,
Yeah.
which was supposed to be what, remnant from the trees way back when.
No,
It was
Or
the
no.
light of Arendelle.
it was the light of
Arendelle.
Arendelle.
Oh,
That's what it
Arendelle has
was.
a Silmaril
Oh,
on his,
okay.
bow, on his
Alright.
brow, and the
It was
Silmaril has in it
something
the
that
light.
Dario mentioned.
Right, yeah, Summer was captured by
But
light
the
from the
queen of
trees way back
the
when.
Queen of the Stars is Atari.
We're talking over each other.
Sorry,
Gary's
sorry.
saying something.
Yeah, what was that?
When Keely was in jail, you know, they were held in the elf dungeons there in the woods in Mirkwood. She mentioned it to Keely, and he said, "Well, that's a cold lake." You know, they were talking about things like that, and she says, "Well, it's." And to me, I can't remember the name. It sounded like Mary Kinko or something like that. It wasn't. So I was just curious about it.
Well,
If
there was.
actually such a thing, or it's an artifice of Peter Jackson.
Well, there was a time when the hobbits are going through the forest and the elves are eating or something, and they're protected by some sort of power because the hobbits stumble in on them, and essentially the elves weren't expecting the hobbits to pop out of the middle of the evil forest because it was full of spiders and so forth. I remember that, but I don't remember exactly where it's at.
The book The Hobbit doesn't mention.
In The Hobbit, you know, the second thing, Desolation of Smaug, it was in that when the Bilbo had used the ring to disappear and sneak into the
Barrel?
kingdom, and then into the fort there in the woods. And all the dwarves were locked up in their cells down below in the dungeon. And Keely got Cariel's interest, and she said, this is a great feast that we have. Luckily, all the elves were drunk on wine, so it helped when the dwarves made the mistake. Like I said, this may be just part of the movie.
In the book, I just looked through the Barrels Out of Bond chapter, and there's not a reference to a holiday like that.
Yeah.
There is
Well,
reference to the guards being drunk, and maybe to the elves being away somewhere partying, but not a name for a festivity. So if such a thing exists, I think someone will have to find it in the appendices or outside of the text of The Hobbit itself.
Yeah, I have a feeling that some of these subjects, like who had beards and like some of the holidays and stuff, we might get answers to some of those questions in September 2nd, when The Nature of Middle Earth is published, which is
What's that?
a new book by Tolkien, edited by Carl F. Hostetter.
Yep.
September 2nd, I believe, is actually the day that Tolkien
Yep.
died.
Yes.
But anyway, so yeah, I think, like I said,
Hofstadter, I think, will do a good job.
Yeah.
I mean, I think before Christopher Tolkien died, I think the comment was that he trusted this person to be a good, faithful editor of his father's work.
yeah.
I am sharing on screen, and for folks here, it's open and available on GitHub, which is normally a software, but you can share other documents so that people can work together as a group. It's titled Shire Reckoning, but it has a list of all the different days, all the different Middle-earth holidays. It has the Shire version, it has the Gondor Reckoning and Gondor holidays, Rivendell, and it's open for community to add to it and fill in any of their blanks. And so it's got all the different calendars and listing. It's quite a lengthy document here with all the different holidays. So that looks like a nice comprehensive compiled
All
resource.
4 of my resources put on one page, and then some.
Yeah, and this is many pages with all the different holidays and months and days and seasons, and so that's a great compiled resource. If you want to check that out, it's at github.com/PSARANDO/Shire-Reckoning. I did paste the link in YouTube and Jitsi, so that way, Brian, when you post your notes, I can add that link to your meeting notes for people to have that as a resource.
Okay, I'll get it off the meeting notes.
Thanks.
Yeah,
'Cause
thank
that looks like a really good resource. So they
Okay.
can really
There's something when they're in the middle of the woods. The spiders catch up to them later, but they see a bunch of elves that are passing around drinks and food, and they're worried that it's just them having a delusion, because they're so intensely scared that the spiders are getting them that they're not sure they trust their eyes, and the fire disappears. I can't read all of it, but Frodo is invisible and he's running around because he didn't want to get caught by the spiders, but he found a bunch of elves, I think is what it was. I'm not sure. I'd have to read like 20 pages here.
That is a really good question, though, because, I've always just assumed the elves are doing what they do. They're feasting in the woods. Of course they are. On the other hand, it is not unlikely or impossible that it was perhaps they were interrupting a special. There may have been a special kind of, because
Festival.
they didn't always do that, because especially if there were spiders around or whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
you typically.
You don't go for a picnic when you've got to defend yourself.
Well, they had some sort of magic.
I don't know. I've been a lot of picnics.
Their lights
Keeps
kind
it
of
off.
poof as soon as-
I remember seeing that. I remember reading that in The Hobbit.
Yeah.
So,
Lots of picnics where I have to defend the picnic from the ants and the spiders and the bees and the.
And the bears.
Oh my.
Hey, Bjorn's a nice guy.
But is there any
Not always.
chance that they were just a earlier group of people heading west?
Okay, that's a good point. Also, because what we see, not so much in Mirkwood, But when we're talking about in the Old Forest, well, no, not the Old Forest, the
Woody
Forest
End.
of the Shire, the Woody End, Sam and Frodo meet elves who were from Rivendell, who were setting off west, or who were journeying through, like
Right.
Gildor.
Gildor. But I don't think that would be in Mirkwood because typically those elves wouldn't be journeying west to the ships, whereas west of Misty Mountains, those elves often were, because they were Noldor elves and, well, a mix actually. Still in
So
Rivendell.
that would not be a thing of the Wood Elves.
Probably not. No.
Well, also, Gildor and his company didn't have as much food. They shared what they had with the hobbits. But the elves in Mirkwood were clearly feasting. I mean,
Which says
Bilbo and the dwarves saw lots of food. I mean, they weren't quite sure maybe what was going on. Every time they approached and got within the perimeter of the light,
Yep.
the lights would magically go out,
Or at
and
least
then they-
seemingly
or
magically.
seemingly magically, whatever it was, the lights would go out, and the dwarves and Bilbo would get lost
Dwarves.
again. And so there's a difference between Gildor heading through the Woody End and sharing some food as a good host, versus the elves in Mirkwood who are actually having some sort of feast, and whether it's just Friday night or whether it's an actual.
Is there any record that you have found, anyone, of an elvish festival in August? Because according to the timeline here, it looks like the dwarves were captured by elves on the 24th of August. So that we're talking mid-August.
After before the Harvest Festival, wasn't it?
There's Elvish Reckoning of Rivendell.
It'd be before the Harvest Festival.
Rivendell
So,
weekdays,
in-
seasons,
in-
holidays.
Yeah, in the forest, forest people would be gathering berries and roots and all sorts of other things, and those tend to be, there's a shorter growing season, and so, I know Mirkwood is not an alpine forest, but that the harvesting period is late August, September, in terms of gathering all the forest land items.
Like huckleberries are an
Yes.
August crop. I mean, you got to go finding
Right.
the berries in August, right?
And then you gotta go make them into wine or whatever else you're doing. But of course, that was a job for the lake man.
old way deal.
So if you gathered berries in earlier August, then you might have time to make something. Although wine typically be fermented over more than 1 year. But yeah, maybe they were celebrating a specific custom, but it just never names it. Specific holiday.
So
Yeah,
have
I'm not
we
finding one.
have we exhausted the topic, or are we gonna?
I think pretty well, yeah.
Yeah.
Are we moving on?
Unless you
Did
want
we
to
finally
name all
hit
the
2
days
o'clock?
of the week.
What about
Different
April
languages.
Fool of a Took Day?
Fool.
Isn't that any day that ends with Y?
Is that when you throw yourself into a well?
Yes.
Okay, so unless Hawk, you had something else, we could go on to the next letter and read letter 184, I believe.
There's just an interesting note from that resource when you're talking about trying to find the days, about the drifting of
Oh.
the calendar of Umladris through time.
Interesting.
Doesn't sync up with the Gregorian Shire calendar until
Which kind
much
of
later.
Kind of references the earlier to our Gregorian calendar was the
Julian?
Julian
Julian,
calendar
yeah.
and how that drifted as
Yep.
well.
So there's a whole project that's linked on that page
Oh, wow.
of all the different years that, what it would have been from the Shire reckoning, etc.
Did you know that
This
in
is
England,
hardcore.
when they moved from the Julian to the Gregorian calendar in September of 1752, I think it was, they skipped 10 days and there were like riots.
Because
they
they
were like,
changed.
well, because they were like, wait, you've stolen this many days' wages from us.
Oh,
Or holidays.
Yeah, I wonder if the government would ever be able to pull that off now. I don't think
They should
You'd
like
have-
to try.
they would like to try, but I bet you they'd have a lot worse than. Somebody once said the reason why rebellions don't happen in England is they just don't like the rain. It's so ever present.
It's bad weather for a rebellion.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
let's
you,
go.
Hawk.
There's that.
We'll
I
reference
think you
that,
could
you know.
find that in there.
Sure.
It's quite a massive. We need to find out who that is. That'd be interesting to have them speak it.
Yeah.
One
the
quick
movies.
comment to Gary about Midsummer Night's Eve. So it's interesting that it's often referenced Eve or evening rather than Midsummer Day's Night. And you like, for example, Shakespeare's play, it's Midsummer Night's Eve, right?
No, Midsummer Night's
Night's
Dream.
Dream, sorry. But it's often, looking up the references, it is often thought that a dream on Midsummer Night's Eve is meant to be special, and that in the Middle Ages, plants and water were thought to have magical properties. And so it also, of course, you have the hoping for a good harvest, or kind of in anticipation of the season, the growing season. So that's how it's related to that.
Cool. All right. Let's open up to other topics before we. Actually, we should probably take a break in a minute. But what other topics would you like to discuss? We're going to take a short break.
Yep.
Take a 5-minute physical break to get up,
After
move
the
around,
break, what do you wanna
etc.
talk about?
But yes.
Just the MGM Amazon stuff.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
War of the Rohirrim.
So we'll open the floor up to any other topics we want to discuss after the break. So we're going to take a 5-minute break. Please physically get up and move around. It's important for everybody's health. It also wakes up your brain. And we'll be back in
Time
about
for
5
some
minutes.
Tolkien calisthenics. Let's go.
Get ready. And 1, and 2.
You gotta do it in
Hawk
English.
Calisthenics. And 1. And 2.
Sting! Sting!
Find a mountain and walk that way.
That's right.
No, walk this way!
should probably have a group planning session soon,
Yes, we should at least a walkthrough.
right? At least we got kind of a head start last year.
All right, hello and welcome back. Oh, let me stop screen sharing. Okay, there we go. Welcome back to the Aya Tolkien Society. We're now in the second half of our meeting.
We always screen our visitors.
Screen.
He was doing his best Edvard Munch representation.
Edvard Munch. Yeah, the screen.
So welcome back, and oh, camera's not on. Come on, camera. There we go.
Hey.
All right. Hey, yep, ho, yep, hey.
Represent.
All right. So second part here.
Tolkien gang
continuing.
sign.
So let's open the floor to other topics that people want to cover. Generally, try to encourage the most junior to get a chance to propose something, and then we kind of work around up to the most senior. So, since you're the newest here,
Fellow Jitster.
So what are you saying? You're Monsignor?
Gary?
Earlier, Chris had a question.
Okay. I know Chris has something in the queue here, but Gary, just want to check, did you have a topic that you were hoping to discuss this month, or are you just kind of going with the flow right now?
I'm just kind of watching it now.
Great. Okay.
I thought it was interesting.
What's that?
I understand the reference to whatever power you're talking about was probably an artifice or probably an invention of Peter Jackson. He's a great film director. He really ticked off the Tolkien family, at least Christopher Tolkien on that one.
Yeah. We've had many a discussion about the Peter Jackson movies over the years. Yes.
Yes, he's only next in line to Feanor in the pinata.
Okay, so yeah, please go with someone else.
Okay. So Chris, you said you had a topic. I mean, unless you did, because did you have a different topic you wanted to cover?
Yeah, I have something I might want to talk about.
Okay. So we'll get his on the, and then go ahead, Chris.
So, what do we make of Amazon acquiring all rights?
Oh yeah, I read about that. Yeah.
All rights.
Hobbits are now owned by Amazon, joining all-encompassing TV rights to the Lord of the Rings book and appendices rights as Amazon bought MGM for $5 billion.
One got the movie rights, one got the TV rights.
Okay.
Yes.
Is that how that worked?
Somebody split it. Yeah, they split it so that there was only movie rights and TV rights, and different companies owned it. I don't remember exactly how they split it up.
As an aside to Hawk, I don't want to get off topic because I want to hear Chris's comments, but we should work on finding a graphic out there so we don't go into the whole long explanation again, but something we could point people to that shows the IP chart
Oh boy.
That is,
for this.
yeah, I don't that. Oh my goodness, that would be like Tolkien's genealogy.
So Chris, go ahead. So your question is, what do we make of that?
Well, so the article in the OneRing.net indicates the acquisition occurred, and within hours, CEO Jeff Bezos announced he was stepping down in July and moving to Hollywood to play with his major studio, of which the crown jewel is the Lord of the Rings.
Before or after he comes back from space?
Right. What this means is that at LLTR on Prime can put Hobbits into their second age show, since the rights to that class of characters was held by MGM. But timelines, you say. Time is just a construct. Amazon needs an everyman entry point for casual viewers. Hobbits are that, so they go on to make the case of the viewing perhaps.
Uh-oh, he
Nope.
cut out.
Your audio turned off there, Chris. We lost your audio.
And I don't know exactly what to do with that.
Well, you're gonna have to repeat that. We didn't hear it.
I still hear Chris.
Yeah, no, you just cut out for a moment. We missed
Yeah.
the last part of your last sentence.
So the idea of being able to see, maybe see the second age scandalously through hobbit eyes.
Proto hobbits. What are those?
Gnomes.
Yeah, that's
Gnomes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, gnomes were what Tolkien used for elves for a while.
Yeah, the original.
No, I thought gnomic had to do with the men.
Well, there was,
the men before the elves.
race
The elves
that were
never changed. The name
hobbit-like.
elves was never. Was
No, the
never-
Noldor though. We're called Gnomes.
Were they?
Gnomes
Yeah.
in Lost Tales. and
Okay.
Maybe it was
early
considered by
writings.
him a subset of elves.
Well, he was tying it into the I think it was a Greek word that means wisdom.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Whereas
Gnostic.
we think of gnome as much more like, well,
Yeah,
like-
gnarled little, yeah,
yeah,
Yeah, like garden gnomes.
Dwarfish.
or even,
Rumpelstiltskin or something.
Yes, yes. But it hadn't been quite so defined. Had it been, I mean, early part of the 1900s, it was still like even trolls. We think of trolls as big, mostly because of Tolkien, I think.
Right, because
But-
there were the trolls under the bridge.
But
that
my
were not
Norwegian
necessarily-
heritage,
Yeah,
the trolls came in all sizes.
Yeah.
From this big
yeah.
Yes.
to living
Fairy.
gnomes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or fairy.
Gnomes. It didn't get. There was a book in the 80s that came out. That's about gnomes. That's when those got codified.
Yeah.
Right, the garden gnomes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So going back to Chris's question, I mean, of course, let's do a best case, worst case scenario. I'll try to start with the bad. So worst case scenario, in my point of view, would be is if they just basically crib, like hobbits, as if they basically have not changed at all, and essentially you've got the Shire or something akin to the Shire existing in the Second Age, way before the Shire really existed, or even before you had a kind of amalgamation, which we know as the Hobbits. Best case scenario would be that they could maybe just try to be more like, well, let's try to put in kind of the seed form of it, where how did they actually emerge, and a little bit kind of like the ancestor of the Stoors and the Harfoots and the
Falahides.
the Falahides. I think there's a quote, if I'm not mistaken, about Gollum that says that when this discussion of what was Gollum, and it was the idea that he was descended from the fathers of the fathers
Of the Stoors.
of the Stoors. And so if the Stoors date from the early Third Age, I think in the timeline of Arda, at least when they're recorded and being observed by other people, kind of crossing westward from the Anduin Vales, right?
Yeah,
Over
yeah,
to-
circa 1000
Right.
Third Age.
We're
is
talking
the earliest
early
known.
Third Age.
Because we did a whole module
Yes, we
on
did.
the earliest of the Hobbits.
the Gladden Fields, for example, and so there's
Western Mirkwood.
Mhm. So there's this idea that, like beginning of the Third Age, you've got these distinguishable tribes of hobbits that kind of become the ancestors of those that cross the mountains and come over and populate the Shire and kind of come together. But this would be like Gollum coming from the fathers of the Stoors. So perhaps late Second Age, you could make an argument that, okay, well, they weren't called the Stoors yet, but you could see that they're emerging, kind of like the European, how you have these nomadic groups that kind of form other groups. But that's the best case
Yeah,
scenario.
yeah, there isn't. They're going to have to do a lot of.
So the descendant is a wolf, and the ancestor. I mean, not the ancestor is a wolf, and the dog's a Chihuahua. So is that what you're saying?
No, that's ElfQuest.
You're just saying the hobbits are Chihuahuas, man.
A specific, yeah.
Wasn't there in the Merp or Tor, maybe you're thinking Merp, but there was a race of primitive hobbit-like people.
Well, it was
You
the
mean-
Proto Hobbits.
John,
and-
you seem to be resembling.
I know, right?
I'm the shortest man in the room usually anyways.
Yeah, the
I
Proto
have Murphy.
Hobbits. So
Sorry,
back
it's okay.
in some years ago, 5 years ago, we did a whole Hobbit campaign for Tolkien Moot. So we did really deep dive research on how far back could we go. That's
And
how
still find hobbits.
Katie's Poppy gets into
We
time travel.
retconned, yes.
Yeah.
You
and
could kind
there
of see
just
it.
isn't anything before about Third Age 1000. We
And-
just couldn't find anything.
And especially not first stage. I mean, that's
Yeah,
So we
nothing.
had this whole thing where with Gondolin was like, no, there can't be hobbits. There can't be anything like that.
Yeah.
But we do see other groups of men, such as the what was this?
Right. The Druidine,
Starting
yeah.
to be
Yep.
starting to be distinct by the end of the first stage. Those are mentioned way back. So one
Yeah.
would assume that if there were such things, we would have heard about them earlier.
You would think, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
It's a big gap,
I don't know. The Golem thing
which
proves.
leaves it open.
I feel like the Golem thing proves that they've probably been around a lot longer than we think they have, because the simple fact that
Quiet.
how long ago was Golem? When did the ring get chopped off of
Sauron.
Sauron's finger?
Well, how long between Sauron's finger and the finding the ring?
That's the
Well,
How long between-
Gollum, maybe 500-ish years, plus or
They lived
minus.
at 589.
Well, the whole point of Gollum was to have a twisted version of Frodo, essentially. I mean, something to look in the mirror and
Kind
be
of
like,
a foil.
kind of, you know, he had to look at Gollum and say, well, this is what I'm going to become if I give in to the ring over a long period of time.
As far as when the ring was chopped off, because that was the end of near the end of the Second Age, so that
Right.
was Second Age 34-41, the Last Alliance, War of the
And
Last
then you've got a
Alliance.
Right,
gap
but-
Yeah.
between Isildur getting shot by the arrows
Right.
in Anduin
Right,
and Deagle finding the ring.
where it just sat for centuries.
Well, we
Yeah.
don't know what the time frame
That's
for
that's
that
the
is.
question. Yeah.
Right. Now it's possible though that you could see proto-hobbits. I don't
Yeah.
want to take
Towards
away
the end of the
or
Second
even
Age or so.
I mean
in
when
that
you've got
area.
the Silmarillion, it's the elvish history of themselves.
Right.
And so whatever is over the Misty Mountains
Yeah. It's self-centric.
is really makes no difference.
Yeah.
And so
And
there could be
yes.
hobbitish creatures, but we just know nothing
Because the
about
East was the Easterlings, and they
Right.
were many different groups from the
And we
East.
know-
And the South were the Haradrim, and there were a number of groups
We
from the
know-
South. So.
Well,
nothing about
we
it.
don't know
Snippets.
if being a hobbit. Okay, I don't want to make this too much about race, but there's or whatever. I just think it's interesting that in our society we do have people that still get dwarfism, even though their parents were not dwarves,
Yeah.
right? And I'm using that to say, like, maybe the hobbits came along because a whole bunch of people with the same genetic
Well-
abnormality got together
Well, you
and
get shorter
closer
people
would
in
be the
Africa
Pygmies.
to the Pygmies.
Yeah, the Pygmy
the Bushmen in
tribes.
Africa are pretty short.
South America, they've got the,
Yeah, I mean,
the Pygmy tribes.
The guys that the tribes I visited in South America when I was growing up,
Yeah.
the adult men are, mainly around 5'2", 5'4",
Yeah.
at least
Yeah.
a couple of the tribes, and so
Yeah.
you
Well,
could,
and
genetics.
you found a
can
good
work that
reference
way.
there.
Go ahead. I was just say, well, I mean, and that actually, I mean, if you look at Roman Empire, that was 5'3" was the average male height
So
anyway. So,
genetics,
Yeah, and nutrition.
What we think
genetics,
of.
nutrition,
Yeah.
clumping together.
What do you have
migration.
there?
Yeah, so just,
I don't know.
I mean, this isn't definitive, but I do think it's helpful in, and we haven't referenced this earlier because this does actually tie into the holiday question. But in the prologue to The Lord of the Rings, there's a section called Concerning Hobbits, and also the Shire Calendar. So that's useful to go back to what he said. But this is interesting because it just says a few things. For example, it is plain indeed that in spite of later estrangement, hobbits are relatives of ours, far nearer to us than elves or even than dwarves. But it says, but what exactly our relationship is can no longer be discovered. The beginning of hobbits lies far back in the elder days
Oh, okay.
that are now lost and forgotten. So they might
Wow.
be camping out on that.
Wow.
Only the elves still preserve any records of that vanished time, and their traditions, of course, are concerned with their own history, in which men appear seldom and hobbits are not mentioned at all. Yet it is clear that hobbits had in fact lived quietly in Middle-earth for many long years before other folk became even aware of them. And then let me skip forward to another interesting little tasty quote, where it says here, Why they later undertook the hard and perilous crossing of the mountains into Eriador is no longer certain. Their own accounts speak of the multiplying of men in the land and of a shadow that fell on the forest.
Yep. And
So
that's
they-
what we did in the campaign based was that.
Right.
theme
So that
there.
it became darkened and its new name is Mirkwood, which would then make their origin predating when it was still called
The
Greenwood
dark.
Great.
Yeah. Yep.
And it says this: before the crossing of the mountains, the hobbits had already become divided into three somewhat different breeds: Harfoots, Stewards, and Fellhides. If they were divided into those, that means that they were originally not divided into those,
Right.
which would be then a proto-hobbit,
Yeah.
an undivided group of people that then speciated out or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yep.
So, interesting stuff. Elder Days usually refers
Usually, I mean,
First
that,
age.
Elves,
yeah,
first age, yeah.
first and second age.
second
I mean,
age. So I guess there's
yeah.
an argument there for saying second age.
Yeah.
But as far as a show goes of bringing hobbits into Numenor
No.
or contact with men, I don't
Well-
like that idea so much.
One tidbit it might
He's not
work,
as a main character.
Was not a
but
hobbit, it
yeah,
was
not
a
as a main
rabbit.
character. But the Druidine were in Numenor, though
Yes.
they're barely mentioned. There's a key part that I used in the Escape from Numenor campaign, which is that the Numenorians were reporting to Elendil and the others, the earth feels unstable beneath our feet, and they one by one left the island before the fall. So because they were having visions and what have you. The Druidine aren't really mentioned in Numenor other than that leading up to the fall, but they were there apparently. So when the Land of Gift happened, apparently some Druidine came along with the other tribes, even though they're not
Because
mentioned.
they were
part of the ones who
the
fought.
folk of Haleth.
Yeah,
The Haladin. There was this kind of reference to in the forest of Haleth, or Haleth. They had they lived side by side,
hmm
and so therefore because they
Lumped
were
together.
of the three noble houses.
Right.
So that idea of big folk and little folk predates Bree
Right.
to that ancient time when you had, in this case, of course, the Woses. Although I wonder if also with them, are we so sure that their Druidine never changed? In other words, could it be that what we see in
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings is one version of those
One
that-
tribe.
one tribe?
Yeah.
They're described
Because you've
as
got
white.
Yeah.
and you've got the others that are down in there's that one forest where there's just a linguistic
Well, and they actually, when they're angry, their eyes glow red. Was a key thing that Tolkien put in there.
yeah,
Yeah, that was a surprising little.
and also that they could
Or
there's some magic they had related to stones.
I mean, not glow, but
Yes.
glint red or something like that. Yeah. Well, the Pukul men. The
Yeah.
Pukul men that could
Yeah.
come to life, the spirit men and such that guarded the
Yeah,
area.
Anyway.
unfinished tales.
Yeah,
Does that
and they
make
were
them
all
more
along
related to dwarves
Andrast
than
and
men?
such, hunted by the Rohirrim and
Chris,
such.
do you, if you had the decision to make, would you say absolutely not, no proto hobbits at all, or would you say yes if?
Maybe the second age is something mysterious and altogether different in that that there might have been proto-hobbits, but their ways and their customs were un-hobbit-like. And that the culture is completely different than what it is in the third age.
So show change over time.
Unless Tolkien said explicitly, and this did not exist, or this did not happen, or there would never ever seen from again, whatever. And even then he contradicts himself sometimes, but unless there's at least something that said no and not,
Yeah.
and negating,
Yeah.
you know, I tried to just leave it open, like, well, we don't know. Right? Tolkien didn't know. It was an area he didn't
Like the
get to
Endwives.
finish
We
filling.
talked about this
Exactly,
with
like the Endwives.
Yeah.
So it leaves it open for the us to conjecture and fill in the blanks that
Other
as he
minds and
wanted
hands.
others to do. What's that?
Other minds and hands.
Exactly, other minds and hands. Exactly.
As long
Unless
as
he
it's
said-
consistent with the canon.
Exactly. As long as there's nothing there that doesn't actually violate
Did you
anything,
write a
it leaves the
doctrine?
potential open.
You guys make sure you have like your own orthodox doctrine that's written out, so we have to go
Well,
by.
I think it's respect. I think it's respect for the author.
If it's not in there, don't do it.
I would rather not see, if we see a hobbit or a very short person, that they don't share any common names that we all recognize. They shouldn't see a Baggins walking through
That would be
second
really-
age.
Although, you know, if they were clever, what they could do is they could actually take the original names. When you look it up and find
and
out,
tweak them and do
Yes.
an ancient root.
Get
yeah.
a good linguistic
And that would
person
be
working
Tolkien.
on
Yeah.
it.
yeah, because you have the original.
Yeah.
Baggins was like Berganza something or other. It, like the
Yes,
what we have
exactly.
in English is translated from the
Exactly.
Westron.
Yeah.
Well, Tuesday, Truesday, Trees Day. Right?
Yeah.
I wrote that in my
Yeah.
paper and such. So,
Boy.
how do you feel about David Salos stuff?
The
He did a lot of the translation stuff. Michael
Interviews
was
on,
not real happy
Yeah.
with his stuff.
interviews on
He wrote a book called Gateway to Cinder, right? Have you read that yet?
Oh, I don't know.
I
He's
haven't
been the one
looked.
who's referenced for a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of
Okay. I haven't
debate
looked
about
into any of that.
it. Okay, just
I-
curious.
I mean, I think that he represents a sincere scholarly effort.
Okay.
And I think among sincere scholars, there can be quite a bit of debate.
Yes.
Sam and I,
As long as it's not David
back
Day.
in 1990.
What's that?
As long as it's not
Alongside David Day.
Boo.
Yeah. Oh,
David Day.
Who's that?
I know. Well, one of my daughters.
don't buy.
Makes
They're
things
little
up.
booklets.
I know.
don't buy
I've
them,
gotten
yeah.
them as gifts, and I'm like,
Yes,
thank
me
you.
too.
And
That's
it's
why
so
I have
hard because
them.
people know that
Yeah.
we love Tolkien, and then
But
it's
they don't
like,
know that it's
they don't know.
terrible.
It's terrible.
They're like the Ace pirated books in the '60s.
Oh.
Way off.
He's not been
Way off.
super careful. He's been kind of fast.
Yeah.
But what was I going to say?
David Saller.
Oh no, I was going to say Sam and I went to the Wade Center. No,
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, the Marion Wade Center in Wheaton College in 1992, and
One.
no, it was the spring of '92.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yep.
And we
I was
saw.
there in '91 as well in the fall.
Yeah, I know,
We
but
both
that's not when I
went.
was there.
Okay, got
This
it.
is my narrative. Anyway,
My
so
story.
my story. Yeah. But when Sam returned, and it was my first time, we saw not only there at Wheaton the actual wardrobe from C.S. Lewis's Boyhood Home,
Yep.
but we also saw a room which was for research purposes only, and it was everything ever written by the Inklings.
Nice.
And at that time in 1992, doubtless they couldn't hold it now. Everything that had been written about Tolkien, I mean, I remember there were books in there that had been written on the Elvish language, a Mythopoeic Society, the what are the Vinyar Tengwar
Vineyard Tengwar, yeah. Got all those
magazines,
down
all of
there.
that. I mean, this
Nice.
it was pretty impressive archive. One of the best, I think, in the world. I think at the time, probably one of the best in the world as far as
Nice.
collected all in one
It
place.
was. There's the Bodleian
Right.
in Oxford.
Right.
There's Marquette University
Right.
in Milwaukee.
Right.
And there's the Wade Center in
Wheaton
Wheaton.
University.
He's closer. Has he been to the Marquette one?
No, we already asked him.
Oh, yes, I missed that. Okay.
No.
Okay.
Has anybody put? I thought I met a lady, and I don't know if my memory is just failing me, who claimed to put together a just English to Elvish dictionary as a separate book.
There's a little red book of it.
Yes,
it's also
I
not
have
very good. I have that
Yeah.
down there.
There's a
either.
website that's actually quite good.
But
though.
the Vineyard Tengwar and those folks, they're great resource.
This was probably one. This is
Yeah,
what we're talking
that's
about. It's
the
probably
one.
one,
Yeah,
of,
that one.
one of the first ones put out, I would
Yeah.
guess, and more information's come out since
exactly.
then.
And,
So
and that's
for what it was at the time,
it was the best effort.
it was
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
was there.
I
But
have that.
there's
What
been
about
there's been more
Harf
since
and
then.
Helen. What about the Elvish Dictionary online? I mean, what do you think about that one? Because I found that seems to be pretty well made.
Depends on which one you're referencing.
We kind of.
Harf and Helen.
I don't remember.
I agree with all this, but are we talking about the movies now? Are we still talking about?
No, we've
We're
answered
into
Chris's
languages.
question.
Oh,
We're
okay.
talking about languages, but we should probably go on to a new topic. Anthony.
Yes, finally. Saving the best for last.
That's right.
Well, I guess we could extend this topic over many sessions because I don't know if we have time.
All
to
of
do
them
that.
we could.
Yeah, right.
At some point we have to
The
go.
advantage
Okay,
of
great.
Tolkien.
But I would love to talk more about how Tolkien was, in addition to being a great author, because we always talk about how he's a great author, but I think he was also a great illustrator too. Because he drew a lot of. He was kind of an amateur
Where's
illustrator.
your Christmas book?
Go ahead.
A lot of books have come out with Tolkien's paintings. I have a couple of them, like j.r.r. Tolkien, artist and illustrator. Art of the Hobbit, Art of the Lord of the Rings. And there's also going to be a special illustrated version of the Lord of the Rings coming out on October 19th, illustrated by none other than the professor himself.
Just in time for Christmas lists.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, painting is kind of something I've always been interested in. Maybe I've thought about taking it up as a hobby, because I think Tolkien really had like a really clear conception of what his world really looked like. And if you just kind of read his writings, particularly Lord of the Rings, there's a lot of descriptions of like landmarks and geographical features and stuff. So I think, even though he was primarily a linguist, I also think he thought in visual terms as well.
Here's some really good examples of his. The Christmas book had some really good drawings in it too.
Yes.
Letters from
Father Christmas.
Oh yeah, that's on there too. It's right at the top left there, right next to the Hobbit. There it is.
Yeah, yeah.
That's one of my favorite of the art books.
You want to hold that one up there, Corey? Well, it's not because he's like, I'm an art major, or this is my major life work, but it was part of him, right?
Yeah.
This one, there's a Russian movie, animated cartoon,
Mr.
in the
Plus.
style of this. It's all in Russian.
Huh.
We talked about it some years ago.
I haven't seen it yet,
But it's in this style and everything. It's
Mr.
worth
Plus.
watching, even though it's in Russian. It's floating around on the internet,
I was thinking of the hilltop. What is it? The hilltop where the Nazgul kind of
Weathertop?
trapped Weathertop. I don't know why I can't
Yeah, go
remember
ahead.
that.
What about
But
it?
when he's talking about visual things, like the relics of that on that hilltop, this castle or whatever. I mean, it must have taken a lot of he must have had a lot of visual.
Do you have some
Yeah.
of the earliest
Absolutely.
elves drawing in there?
I also would say that
he didn't do a
when
lot
you
of
look
people.
at
It was
how
mostly
in the Lord of the Rings movies, like how they chose a location or whatever, it's one version of it that works. But I think I've always imagined Weathertop differently. Not because of any illustration I saw by Tolkien, but I always imagined differently.
yeah. Thumb through those. They're great if you haven't had a chance to before.
So, Anthony, what else would you like to say about that? I mean, do you have any favorite illustrations of Tolkien's that you wanted to share, or did you want to bring up a question related to the illustrated thing? We could even have every month a little different thing about Tolkien as illustrator.
Yeah, that'd be awesome too. I like this one. It's a painting of Hobbiton across the water,
Nice.
the hill. I don't know if you want to share that, Hawk, or
Can you share that? Sometimes they allow us, and sometimes it won't.
I also like the one he did of Smaug with his treasure. And you can,
Oh yeah. As a kid, that was always
yeah.
one that I always liked. You're like, oh, there's Bilbo.
He almost looks friendly in that picture.
Who, Smaug?
Okay.
Yeah.
There's the Hobbiton across the
That's
Right,
because he's lying
yes.
down.
Yeah.
The hill, Hobbiton across the water. That's a great one.
He uses a lot of watercolor.
Yeah,
in his
watercolors
work,
and pencil.
And pencil.
Yep.
Also, ink.
Yep.
Just
Yeah.
a black.
I find
a black
watercolors
ink
so
pen.
challenging.
Yeah, that is very.
Okay. Watercolor.
And I think
Pencil.
another thing I
that's
would love to talk
lovely.
about are maps.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's a whole nother topic. We gotta do like a whole meeting just on maps.
Oh, totally.
Should do that for next month. Well, next month.
But,
we're
but,
gonna
but
be-
give us a
never
little
mind, we
taster.
got Tolkien,
Go ahead,
please.
tell us about one map that you love there.
I don't know. Well, since I guess for Tolkien Moot, we're kind of talking about the Golden Age of Numenor. I kind of pulled up a map of Numenor.
Yes,
The
yes.
star shape.
Do show us.
Type it. It's in the shape of a 5-pointed star, of course.
With all the
Is that what it looks like? I've never seen
contour
the
lines,
picture.
right?
Yeah. I don't
Never
know.
seen the
I don't know if
picture.
you guys if you guys want to see it, but I have it up
Please.
here. Sure. Here, you can borrow this.
This is Numenor. I know you won't be able to see it on camera until we get up closer.
Which brings me to mind that
Good?
comment.
Closer?
Yeah, that's good. You're good right there.
It was
Okay.
borrowed.
I've seen
It spells it differently.
images of Numenor before. I've got one book, I can't remember the name, but
It's west.
she's,
Karen Lynn Fonstad.
yeah, from the University of Wisconsin.
Yep.
Who did a bunch of different maps for the first, second, and then the third age.
Yep.
Third age when the Earth had been changed so much, or anyway. Hard to-
Well,
Yes,
we
that was
switched
all
from
pre.
flat Earth.
That was all pre-history of Middle Earth. That Carolyn Fonstad's maps. Yeah,
Yeah.
another one of those best efforts with the information is available. at the
Yeah,
time.
exactly.
Yeah.
Good point.
We now first age we were flat Earth, and then second age we became round.
Yes.
Follow Numenor.
No, following
Follow
second age.
Numenor.
After
yeah.
the second age, because
Yeah.
that's when they, because of the sin of
hubris,
the hubris,
of Ar-Pharazôn.
yes, of Numenor, then the seas become bent, and then the lands are submerged, right? Or does no? Wait a minute, Beleriand, right? The War of Wrath.
Yeah, Beleriand was before.
That
was,
is simply
yeah.
a sinking, but still flat Earth.
Right.
Right.
But because of the fighting,
Ar-Pharazôn.
no.
Oh, right
Going
back
to
then, yeah.
The Beleriand, it's just because of the tumult of the
Right.
battle against Morgoth, right?
Yes, and
then
that's
you have
why.
the chaining of Morgoth, but you can still sail to Valinor.
Right, but that's why they said we won't fight again. We need to use proxies, because when we get involved, it destroys the lands.
Right.
It remakes the lands every time we fight.
It's a discordant tone.
Well, isn't that the reason why Gandalf was told that he wasn't really allowed to be being in conflict with
Sauron himself.
Sauron directly? He had to be the one that brought the tribes together, everybody together, to be able to hold off.
It was also part of Gandalf's personality in the first place. When you're reading the Silmarillion, the 3 sentences that mention him as Olorin, it says that he was a lot with Lorien, the Vala of dreams, and that people would often receive urgings they knew not from where, or they knew not whence.
Right.
And that's also part of what his power and stuff is in the first place, not as much a proactive
But he's on his phone.
attack, but an encouraging and a moving of people's spirits and hearts to do the right thing. So you get a double.
Well,
you
there's
can't
just-
do this, and
There's in a way like there were divisions, even because the Rohirrim and the Gondorians are separated, but they're all the men. They're all men, and essentially what's going on is like everybody's reunited, and the divisions are taken apart, even if it's just what was I going to say? I don't remember.
Temporary?
Yeah, temporary. That's what it meant. Superficial, at
Right.
least on the bigger level.
If
Sorry.
if you all don't mind, could we try to read one letter before the end? Anthony, did you get? Do you feel like we were able to explore that a little bit?
Yeah, like I said, we could talk about
Come
this
back to it next month.
all day, every day.
Especially if you want to look at Hammond and Skull, who look at him as an illustrator.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
a lot there that you can look at if I'm an artist as well. If you want to get into some of his technique or what he's portraying and his actual skill.
All right.
We're very thankful for him and Skull. Okay. So let's go ahead and pull up what letter 184, I believe, is where we are.
To Sam Gamgee,
To Sam Gamgee.
a real person.
Good name.
Wow. On the 13th of March, a letter was written to Tolkien by a Mr. Sam Gamgee of Brixton Road, London, SW9. I hope you do not mind my writing to you, but with reference to your story, Lord of the Rings, running as a serial on the radio, I was rather interested in how you arrived at the name of one of the characters named Sam Gamgee, because that happens to be my name. I haven't heard the story myself, not having a wireless radio, but I know some who have. I know it's fiction, but it is rather a coincidence as the name is very uncommon, but well known in the medical profession. 18th of March, 1956, as from 76 Sandfield Road, Headington, Oxford. Dear Mr. Gamgee, it was very kind of you to write. You can imagine my astonishment when I saw your signature. I can only say for your comfort, I hope, that the Sam Gamgee of my story is the most heroic character, now widely beloved by many readers, even though his origins are rustic. I love that he's writing this in 1956 and he's already a well-beloved character.
Yeah.
And truly the hero of the story.
Yeah.
You know?
I agree. Yeah.
So that perhaps you will not be displeased by the coincidence of the name of this imaginary character of supposedly many centuries ago being the same as yours. The reason of my use of the name is this. I lived near Birmingham as a child, and we used Gamgee as a word for cotton wool. So in my story, the families of Cotton and Gamgee are connected. I didn't realize that. I did not know as a child, though I know now, that Gamgee was shortened from Gamgee tissue, and that it was named after its inventor, a surgeon, I think, who lived between 1828 and 1886. It was probably, I think, his son who died this year on 1st of March, aged 88, after being for many years professor of surgery at Birmingham University. Evidently Sam, or something like it, is associated with the family. And he's got an asterisk here, which I don't have the
My
notes.
Sam Gamgee is Samwise, not Sam
Not Samson
son or
Samuel.
Samson or Samuel.
Although I never knew this until a few days ago when I saw Professor Gamgee's obituary notice and saw that he was son of Samson Gamgee, and looked at a dictionary and found that the inventor was S. Gamgee, and probably the same. Have you any tradition as to the real origin of your distinguished and rare name? Having a rare name myself, often troublesome, I am specially interested. The etymology given in my book is of course quite fictitious and made up simply for the purposes of my story. I do not suppose you could be bothered to read so long and fantastical work, especially if you do not care for stories about a mythical world, but if you could be bothered, I know that the work, which has been astonishingly successful, is in most public libraries. It is, alas, very expensive to buy, £3, 3 shillings, 0 pence. But if you or any of your family try it and find it interesting enough, I can only say that I shall be happy and proud to send you a signed copy of all 3 volumes as a tribute from the author to this distinguished family of Gamgee. Yours sincerely, j.r.r. Tolkien.
Man, that's cool.
And then he says under there.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Mr. Gamgee replied on 30th of March with more information about his family. He expressed himself delighted at Tolkien's offer of signed volumes. Tolkien sent them! And Mr. Gamgee acknowledged their arrival, adding, I can assure you that I have every intention of reading them.
Can you imagine how much those would go for on auction?
Yeah, I
days?
wonder.
Oh my
Like at Sotheby's or
In
something?
the Tolkien family album, published by Priscilla and Bailey Tolkien, there's a picture of this Mr. Gamgee.
Oh, really?
I
Really?
believe.
Oh,
I
wow.
wish if I were at home,
Yes.
I'd reach right here.
Just go to
And
Minnesota.
I double check, but I'm pretty sure that there is a picture in the Tolkien. It's like the Tolkien family album is what
Okay.
it's called.
All right.
Well, just
And there's a reference to
Yeah,
this
sure.
letter, not the full letter, but a reference to it.
Mhm.
And I believe there's a picture on the left-hand page.
well,
in
Gary's
the
in
right-hand
Wisconsin,
corner.
and that's right next door to Minnesota, so you can go over to your house and get it for you.
Well, that's where I grew up, but no, I've lived in several different places, and I'm in Washington State right now, in a place called Anacortes. It's,
Oh, that's right. Sorry, you're in Washington State.
Yep.
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
My brother still lives on the outskirts of Madison. So.
That's right. That's you said that's where you first read the Lord of the Rings. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was at the University of Wisconsin for 1 year, and then Vietnam happened, and anyway.
Right.
Hawk,
Wisconsin's a nice, by the way, Wisconsin's a nice place, really nice people. Problem is that they got 7 months of winter, so.
Yes, I know.
Hawk, could you read letter 185? It's very short and it's referring to the same kind of
You bet.
discussion.
185 from a letter to Christopher and Faith Tolkien, 19 March 1956. I've had a letter from a real Sam Gamgee from Tooting. He could not have chosen a more hobbit-sounding place, could he? Though unshire-like, I fear, in reality. Also, A and Unwin send extremely good news, or prophecies, of probable financial results to come later. Yep, that's it.
Just excitement that you've gotten the letter.
There's a very long letter
It
after
would
that
be
one.
really funny if he was like their mascot for the rest of the, you know.
Right. Well, I'm
Oh,
wondering if
it's him
anyone's
going
got
on
any
about
contact.
allegory again. In the
That's
next
some
one.
heavy stuff.
I'm wondering if there's anybody who's got any contact with this
Yeah.
as Gamgee's
Yeah,
descendants.
yeah.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
That would be.
What are you
That'd be
guys doing
cool.
now? Have you
Yeah, what did you do with the
read
books?
the books, watch the movies?
Can I borrow the books?
Did they,
Just-
did they get
I don't know if they
disposed
would
of or
trust
what?
you.
They shouldn't.
Signed
So
copies.
just to make this clear, he says a very Shire-sounding name. So a lot of British names sound odd to us because they have very old origins. But
Like
Um,
Jersey.
so no, I just wanted to bring this up. Tooting has been settled since pre-Saxon times. The name is of Anglo-Saxon origin, but the meaning is disputed. It could mean the people of Tota, in which context Tota may have been a local Anglo-Saxon chieftain, or it could have been derived from an old meaning of the verb to tout, to look out. There may have been a watchtower here on the road to London, and hence the people of the lookout post. Anyway,
Cool.
there you go.
With ing
people of
being
Weathertop.
the people ending. Ing would be the people ending.
Always. Ing.
Just like Eorlings.
Yep.
And I don't know any
Wolfings.
Dutch. Yeah, the Wolfings, etc. I don't know any Dutch,
Beowulf.
but there are a lot of Dutch last names that are Enga and Inga,
Okay.
Oh.
which
Okay.
I'm
I never
guessing
realized that's
from
the
my
connection.
little bit of Tolkien and Anglo-Saxon
Yeah,
knowledge
people of-
could very well mean
Sure.
that some of my Dutch relatives are people of
Yeah. That makes sense.
housing or Heising.
The folk of, the people of that.
The folk of the people of this
Didn't-
place or this
Was it in the
characteristic.
Beowulf? What was the group? There was a group. Yeah.
Wolfings.
The Wolfings.
Yeah.
The Shieldings.
And the Shieldings, yeah, shield chafing.
Sheep of the shield.
Shield
Yeah.
chafing, and then the shielding, yeah.
Yeah.
The Shieldings were the descendants of shield chafing.
So okay, this reference to Alan and Unwin, basically saying,
Genealogy loses
I'm
me.
assuming because 1956, The Return of the King is published that year, so basically reports back on the sales being quite good. Probably.
Yeah.
Well, he said prophecies, so it's
Yeah, well, I
maybe
think it was
projected sales.
Well, I think Return of the King was
Based on
published
orders or
in
something.
55 in the UK, 56 here in the US.
Oh.
How many copies do you think the library had back then?
It was hot stuff back then. I don't know.
Yeah, but not as hot as the 60s.
True.
Yeah.
It really
And
took
it came out in
off.
the 50s.
The
but
60s were hot.
60s is
Frodo
when it went
lives.
nuts.
On buses. and-
Yeah.
Well, in
Hippies.
1967, The Lord of the Rings outsold the Bible.
Really?
It's the only book in history to outsell the Bible
Oh,
in
man.
a given year,
Yeah.
which is
that-
pretty
Proof that
phenomenal.
Tolkien is God.
No.
I'm just-
Okay, so
Now he's rolling in his grave.
Lightning.
Eru Iluvatar, at least, right? In his world.
Or Gandalf.
And the whole room sinks.
Okay.
Great. So we got,
We got-
2 letters in.
Yep, we got a few minutes left for anybody who wants to touch on anything before we
Didn't
wrap up.
didn't Gandalf when wasn't he connected to the hobbits even way before Bilbo got involved? Didn't he have an aunt or an uncle or something that
I don't think
was
so.
connected with
Gandalf gave the old Took some magic cufflinks.
right?
Something.
Yeah,
he gave
something-
the old Took some magic cufflinks for that, so
Yeah.
he did know.
He visited the Hobbit
Some-
lands
He had a
quite extensively.
reputation.
Yeah, he visited.
Well, he
have a
kind of said he
reputation.
more or less studied them, didn't he? Kind of.
Yeah.
Didn't he
kinda
know
like they were-
Vanderbrust?
Fascinating,
Bullroarer?
fascinating study
Yeah.
and one that will surprise
I
you.
thought, well, maybe.
Well, he tells the story,
Oh,
right?
like he was there.
But
Go ahead.
Have you guys had a discussion on how such a magical world of Middle Earth is so magic light, where like
Well-
it's really limited to who has access
Yeah,
to magic?
interesting.
that's
Well, where was
it's
his?
light
where
from a
was-
D&D
He
perspective.
said something
of
about
magic.
his great aunt
It's
or
richly
grandmother or
embedded
something.
from the Song of
where-
Art.
oh, there it is.
Right.
It's
But
a
I'm
living
looking
tapestry.
So
of
he
magic.
must have known
Who has
so he would
access
have known
to
the
it?
family.
Humans have extremely little. Hobbits seem to have
Um,
none.
Well,
In
some, but little.
None what?
in
None
Other
what?
Minds magazine, there's
No access to magic.
yeah, in Other Minds magazine we have several issues that cover magic in Middle Earth and the different forms that it takes, how each culture. Also in Hands of the Healer, my Iron Crown Enterprises Middle Earth role playing, they talk about all the different cultures, forms of healer, of doctors, of clerics, whatever.
The king.
All of each of the how each culture's different approaches to healing and
Where it's
medicine
embodied,
and
it's
all of
embodied, isn't it? Often.
What's that?
Embodied, not acquired. I'm trying to draw a distinction between
Mixture.
acquisitive.
Yeah, there are people who would study it and who become the, depending on the woodling, the woodmen and such had their more more nature-bound. You know, they would have their shamanic like healing type.
But as far as what Tolkien himself actually wrote, it seems like the ones who didn't have it and tried to possess it were often going the wrong direction.
Well, if the problem is if they got hooked into the Morgoth nature, right? If they were.
Can you name one example of someone who did not have a magical nature, tries to acquire magic, and it goes well?
It doesn't.
Well,
it doesn't.
The Druidine. The Druidine.
But I think that's in their nature, much like the hobbits being able
Well, they
to
had-
be invisible or be very quiet and be undetected if they wanted to be.
Well,
Is-
with what I read, and maybe I'm misinterpreting, was that there were shamans in the Druidine who developed and those skills. There are other Druidine that did not have those skills. It wasn't just in the Druidine, but that they were part of they listened to the Song of Arda and worked with it and
This would
shaped
be a really
it
good
and
topic
all
for
of
next
that.
month. Could we maybe expect, or not next month, but
Well, we want to talk about magic in Middle Earth with multiple issues covering that.
right.
Well,
But
magic
I'm
in
just
Middle
saying, I
Earth-
think that we need more time to look up sources.
Oh,
I don't
yeah,
remember
I would
shaman
need
ever
a
being
lot
mentioned
more
by-
time. Not that specific term, but
Well, being that it's a literary construction, the whole point of that was supposed to be mythopoetic. So there was a lot of that's different than people who make magic systems nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
They're just doing it for the practical nature
Right.
of the magic. But
Power.
but
He didn't write a
Tolkien
magic
was
system.
he didn't have a magic
No.
system. It was more like
to see
poetry.
magic as
Yeah.
power, I think, is a Saramanic construction. I would think you
Right.
would say, or it would be, yeah. But
Was
that's
the
maybe a topic.
necromancer?
Was Sauron.
He was not.
that was Sauron
That was
in
Sauron.
disguise.
So
Yeah.
Sauron already had the magic.
Yeah.
But who else is an example of somebody who tried to achieve magic? They didn't start with it.
Well, do you remember?
Besides Saruman, who's a
The
story.
Nazgul.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Nazgul.
You know
got,
when they
yeah,
were talking
yeah,
to
Kings of
Galadriel?
Men.
Remember when they were talking
Right.
to Galadriel? And she goes, I don't understand why you guys call what I do and what the enemy does as magic. And that was kind of Tolkien's
There's actually
way
two
of
different
saying
Elvish
that
words for
magic
it, too.
wasn't a word he liked. He didn't like the word magic being thrown around.
There's
Dwarven
two
It's what he had to
words,
settle for.
In this Prancing Pony podcast, they talked about this where there's a word. There are two different words, and there's two different Latin words for magic,
Yeah.
and there might have been an Elvish equivalent that Tolkien.
In Other Minds magazine, where this gets broken down by Osric and others, we have many. We talked about this for decades, and it eventually culminated in these articles. And so this is where, like, you know, in the One Ring, they actually referenced some of the like Fey and Hroa and things like
Yeah,
that are
yeah.
in the game system.
Yes.
Based on a lot of those conversations spanning
Spirit,
decades about that,
body, and-
because these are things that Tolkien
Right.
enumerated to some degree.
Right.
Yeah, that's a long conversation going on. The conversation of magic in Middle Earth is very complex. It is both subtle and ubiquitous, very different than the D&D magic, until you get into Saruman and Sauron and
wizards.
those where it can be very different. Yeah, so if
Maybe
you,
we can come back
Other
to
Minds
it.
magazine's
Certainly not Harry
free.
Potter.
Yeah, Other Minds
There are
magazine
very
is
few
free.
cases of actual spell casting.
Right.
Could you comment
Otherminds.net
Mm-hmm.
is where you can download any of those issues, and there's an index so you can find which issues covered.
Right.
But briefly, what?
Tolkien Moot. Can you talk
Okay,
about that?
Tolkien Moot. So, Tolkien Moot is a month away. Woo! It's right around the corner.
Exactly a month away?
Yeah, a month from today.
Which
Oh.
is
Which will be July 17th.
no, just a reminder of what Tolkien Moot is.
Tolkien Moot is, it'll be our 17th annual Tolkien Society and Gaming Convention. So it's all things Tolkien. Sometimes it's been 3 to 5 days. Currently we're just doing 1-day events here in Spokane, Washington, from 8 a.m. till 10 p.m. Pacific time. We do stream one or more rooms live, and during the Tolkien Society meeting, of course, we stream that as well.
So that's embedded in the middle. We will
That's
have
in
our
the middle.
normal Tolkien
Yeah.
Society meeting.
From 1 to 3 p.m. at our
and
normal
we have
time.
this year Alan Sisto and Sean Marchese
Wonderful.
from the
As our
Prancing Pony
guest
podcast.
speakers.
Yes, it'll be a great
Wonderful.
panel.
And the theme for this year is the
Golden Age of Numenor.
the
Zenith.
Zenith of Numenor.
The last time it was good.
Yeah.
Before it all goes bad.
Before the tourists came along. Zealand's new tourists.
So for those who want a little more experiential dive into the Second Age and what Numenor was like, through gaming. That's an opportunity. Some people just come and watch. Some people participate. We also lay out like board games, card games, computer games, all Tolkien, Middle Earth, etc. games, and that's from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m.
What were the two names of
You can-
Gollum and Ken?
Smeagol and Deagle.
No.
Of who?
Slinker and Stinker.
Yeah,
Slinker and Stinker. Oh,
that's
yeah.
what you are if you're only gonna watch the game, man.
No.
Lurker,
We
man,
Totally,
lurker.
That's okay. We totally encourage it. Challenge by choice. So if you want to sign up, it's a free event. It is potluck, so please help contribute by bringing stuff. And it's tolkienmoot.org is where you can RSVP. It is RSVP if you want to participate in person. You don't have to RSVP online, but it'd be great if you do because it helps us plan. And you don't have to game. You can just show up and hang out, or we welcome you to play and have a great time. But please do RSVP ASAP because we have to plan game masters and rooms and resources
Yes.
if you want to participate in the game.
Yes, be good to your game masters.
Yes. Brian will be running one of the tables. He'll be running the One Ring role-playing game. John, are you running a table? So
I'm
we'll be
playing
running
Adventures in Middle Earth.
Adventures in Middle Earth. So these are variant game systems, same adventure, same setting, just different game systems for what people are comfortable with. And then if we have demand for more, we'll allocate more tables and GMs as needed. So if you can't make it in person, we do, as I said, stream it live. We prefer to not do the gaming online if unless we have to. It just creates so many technical issues.
Yeah.
It really can interfere with the game flow. So if you can make it in person, it's a once a year thing. We've had people fly from all over the world to come participate. It's not a large event. We're talking 20 to 30 people typically. It's not, it's a fun, you get to meet your fellow Tolkien fans and of all different levels, and it's a nice little event. It's here at my house for now. So eventually we'll have the warehouse. Yes?
Is there going to be anything besides gaming? I'm not
Yes. Yeah, no, we have the normal Tolkien Society meeting from 1 to 3, and we have
Okay.
special guest speakers joining us as we
Really
do each year.
worthwhile. Yeah, hope to see you there, Gary.
Yeah, I plan to make it.
Yeah, we do. We always have different speakers and panelists.
Will it be the same login means and password?
Yeah, it'll be the exact same location
I want to
right
write
here.
that down. Yeah.
Yeah, where you logged in here, that's where you would join. And it'll be on the website. and
We
all
hope
of
you're
that.
back, Gary. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you.
Really appreciate
Now,
it.
the primary topic will be Numenor.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Gift bringers.
Be well, Namarie.
Gift bringers, okay.
It's what we were going to do last year.
All right. We'll wrap that up and see you all next month at Tolkien Moot 17.
Yay, thank you.
Woohoo.
Huzzah!
Huzzah!
And magic powers. So we don't have John's contact details, but hopefully at least he can. He didn't give you any details, did he?
I mean, Gary, the guy.
John, not John. Gary.